Hello.
Welcome to Sinister Sisters.
Doo-doo-doo.
I'm Kat. This is my co-host Shreem,
Shrimp.
and we your hosts, like I just said.
Woohoo.
Happy Easter to those whom celebrate. Oh, we've got some kitten ASMR on the go.
Can you hear her purring?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's okay.
Stop it, Suki.
Stop being happy. We hate it.
She just purrs so loudly. She's such a baby.
She is.
She's a sweet
She
girl.
is. Oh, Bubba. Oh. Anywho,
Sorry.
happy Easter to those of our listeners, viewers who celebrate.
Yeah.
If not, happy Sinister Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for joining us today. The more important of the 2 days is definitely Sinister Sunday.
Absolutely.
So, kind of in theme of the holiday, this week we are talking about a jewelry heist that happened over the Easter weekend in 2015. So
We love
that's
that.
fun. Yeah. So I don't know. Have you got anything else to say, Shrimp? Or should we just get into it?
Let's just get into it because I'm hungry.
Okay. So I guess firstly we'll start with some like establishing information about the area. So the jewelry heist took place in Hatton Garden, which is a street in London in the Camden area. Have you heard of this?
I listen to podcasts when I go to sleep, and one of my favorites is a Scotland Yard Confidential, Suki Please, by podcast, and they did an episode on this, but I don't listen to it very often because I prefer the murder ones. So I've heard of it, but I don't know the details.
Yes, it's very interesting.
Love it.
I have also listened to a British Scandal series on this episode, but it fits so well with the holiday that I couldn't resist talking about it. So.
It's Easter, innit?
It is Easter.
Stealing the diamonds for Easter.
Yeah, that's what you get when you have bank holidays. People, you should be at work. Just kidding.
Oh my god, is that where that phrasing comes from? Bank holidays, in the sense that banks were closed?
Yeah.
Hello?
The whole time? Are you having a minute?
The whole time?
The whole time. The whole time. Because it's like an office holiday, but some other places might still be open, right? Like a supermarket might be open.
But it's like a bank holiday contingent on the bank being closed.
Yeah. Shrimp is losing it.
I had no fucking clue. I just thought that it was like, you know Sinister Mum. Sometimes she just says things. And that's the only other person that I've heard say bank holiday is Sinister Mum.
No, it's like the British term for a statutory holiday. For a stat.
So why is it called a stat holiday here? A stat, because it's
statutory, it's required.
Now that makes more sense than a bank holiday, I must say.
It kind of does.
But it's not required for everybody, so maybe it doesn't.
No, but it is required if you work, then you get paid extra.
Oh, yeah, innit?
Yep. Mum was telling me the other day, Sinister Mum was telling me the other day, that in England, because they just were there a few weeks ago, everything closes on a Sunday at like 4:00.
That's
like,
nice.
Supermarkets, pharmacies, all of that closes at 4:00 because there was like a deal struck with the government and the church a long time ago that stores could be open on Sundays, but they had to be closed early. Like, everything's shut. Isn't that weird? I thought it was really interesting.
The one time the church has come in handy.
Indeed. Indeed. For context, any of the British listeners, shops in North America are open at all hours every day. Like our local big chain supermarkets like Superstore, Walmart, they're all open till 11 p.m. Like open 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. And even like local businesses probably would be open till 6 o'clock on a Sunday if they're open. So
I think
the more you know.
it would be fine if things closed on Sundays in Canada.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like necessary for it would give everybody everywhere a day off. And I think we need more of those.
We do. How about we mandate the 4-day work week?
Honestly, I would love that.
Yeah.
See,
Anyway.
the tea is that capitalism, I don't give a fuck. What I don't like being is a slave to capitalism. Why is money so important? Why is everything so expensive? When do we just get to be humans? Never.
When you're a child.
When you're a child,
I think.
And when you're dead.
Yeah.
And I think that's why so many people are so nostalgic for their childhood, is because not that there was no responsibilities, but there was no grind. Just vibed.
Yeah.
Just frolicked outside, played on the trampoline for hours. Like, yeah, you had to go to school, but there wasn't like the importance. If you needed a day off school, for most people, if you needed a day off school, you could have a day off school. Because you're not like gonna get evicted if you don't pay your rent because you didn't go to school, you know?
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm on a lot of tangents today.
You're on a tangent. I think we've said 4 seconds of the actual episode, so.
Yeah, sorry. That's me, innit?
I'm not the one who's starving and complaining.
I'm bloody starving, you're right. Forgot.
Okay, so to recap, Hatton Garden was where the heist takes place. It is a street in Camden, in London. It is basically like the jewellery headquarters area of London and the diamond district, basically, for the entire UK. It's like the centre of the diamond trade.
London's cute because it has these little sections of like things. Like Hatton Garden is apparently diamond section.
Yeah.
And then Fleet Street is news section. It's just, I don't know. It's just kind of cute that like
separate.
Yeah, and kind of like a fantasy novel. This group of people, they make the diamonds, and this group of people, they tell us the news and what's happening, and it's just kind of cute.
True. That is true. Fun. So the Hatton Garden / Camden area house as many as 300 businesses and 90 shops related to the jewelry industry.
Nice.
So, as I'm sure you can expect, the area has been targeted before.
Yeah, it's a good place.
There's been quite a few robberies over time. It is. The earliest documented robbery in the area was in December of 1678, where a private home was robbed for its riches. And then most recently, prior to this heist in 2015, there was a major robbery in July of 1993 where £7 million worth of gems were stolen.
Anyways, you gotta reel me in, bro.
That's not what we're talking about
You
today,
have to reel me in.
I'm trying, and then you interrupt me, so...
The other day, some dude was staring at me in the car, and I go, reel your fucking nose in? And generic boy name was like, what does that even mean? Why are you being so rude to him? And I was like, he's staring at me like in a gross way. He's like, oh, I thought you were saying he had a big nose.
I mean,
I was like, yeah, it makes sense.
That was fair. Yeah.
Anyways, reel me in, Katarina.
Anyway, Hatton Garden.
Hatton Garden.
Easter weekend.
2015. 2015.
So this group of criminals, this criminal crew.
Enterprise.
Um, yes.
Mm.
They pulled it off this absolutely audacious heist
The
of the
audacity.
Hatton. The target of the heist was the Hatton Garden Safe Deposit Company, which was a high security vault located, obviously, in Hatton Garden. And it was thought, because of its closeness to so many jewelry businesses, that it would contain an awful lot of precious gems, gold, diamonds,
It's a
the
good
goods,
idea.
if
Yeah.
you will. The interesting part of this particular story is that you would think, if when you think jewelry heist and you think how, when we get into it a little bit more, how bold and daring it is, you would think that this is like a group of 25-year-olds, right? Like peak fitness.
Yeah.
No. So there were 7 men involved, most of whom were over the age of 60. So the
Grandpa,
players,
get back to the
literally,
home.
yeah.
Who let you
So
out again, orderly?
so there was Brian Reeder, aged 76, Danny Jones, aged 60, Kenny Collins, 75, Terry Perkins, 67, William Lincoln, 60, Hugh Doyle, who was 48, Carl Wood, who was 58, and a gentleman named Basil, who was later revealed to be called officially Michael Seed, who was 54.
Ooh, he's a young'un, isn't he?
He's a young'un. Well, there's also
54.
Hugh Doyle, 48.
Oh, Hugh Doyle. Only
Anywho,
48.
only 48.
He's a grave
So the
robber, that
ring.
one. Sorry.
Oh no. Literally, but yeah. So so the ringleaders of the heist were Jones, Collins, Reeder, and Perkins, and they had planned this robbery for at least 3 years, preparing, plotting, you know, mapping it all out on one of those crime boards. That's a hyperbole. That's not actually true, but um, so they chose the Easter weekend because it would provide them with 4 interrupted days to carry out the heist. Because in the UK, the Easter weekend, the Easter holiday weekend is you get Good Friday and Easter Monday off. So lots of uninterrupted time there
Yeah, well,
that jewelry makers were spending with their families,
we should
and
do
these men were
Easter
stealing
weekend
from
for
them.
the robbery because Christmas I've got to go to me in-laws' house and I can't, Thanksgiving doesn't exist in England, so can't have that one. I think Easter's the best. We've got 4 uninterrupted days. We could just take their jewels. You have to leave
Yeah,
all of this in. I'm
exactly.
hilarious today.
So funny, so tangenty. So the men involved were definitely not new to stealing, to thievery. They all had previous, or mostly all had previous criminal records of varying degrees of severity. Brian Reeder was nicknamed the Governor or the Master by his fellow heisters, and he was involved in a 1983 Brinks mat robbery
Oh,
with
yeah.
yes, with another infamous criminal called Kenneth Noy, who
Mm-hmm.
actually eventually went on to serve multiple murder charges. Anyway, Brian Reeder, though, received an 8-year sentence for this Brinks mat robbery.
I've heard a
Terry
podcast episode about that too.
Perkins.
Sorry.
Oh, well, maybe we'll talk about that in time. Terry Perkins actually spent his 67th birthday breaking into the vault, and he had been involved in a 1983 Security Express robbery and had served 22 years in prison for that case.
What was the difference
He
between
actually,
that one?
oh, sorry,
Why was that one
I
22
don't
years and the other one was only 8?
I don't know.
Weird.
He was sentenced to 22 years. but he actually escaped from prison in 1995 and was at large until 2012. So he had a little break, a prison sabbatical in there, which is like crazy. Who even escapes from prison and is out for that long?
I don't know.
Like, what is that?
Especially in like 2000s.
Yeah,
Like, I could understand if it was
wild.
like 1402, but
Yeah, no, 2012. In 2011, he was still at large. He was actually released very shortly before the heist happened from this 22-year plus some for escaping um, bit, stint in
So did
prison.
he even help in the planning, or did he just reap the rewards? God, I hate group projects.
He was involved in the planning, but probably not for the full 3 years that the others were. Disaster strikes. When
Hello?
the ADHD girls have worn out ADHD medication and are starving.
Starving?
Disaster.
Absolutely bloody starving, ain't I?
Okay, Hagrid.
Oh, R.I.P.
Oh, yes.
It would have been his
Bless
birthday the other day.
We don't have time to talk about Hagrid and his birthday.
Well,
I'm
not
sorry.
Hagrid, but the actor.
Um,
Same birthday as me, innit?
oh.
Mm.
I share a birthday with Robert Pattinson.
This is the skin of a killer, Bella. As if you could outrun me!
Probably, bro.
Think you could fight me off?
Yeah,
That's from Twilight, you
probably.
twat.
Anyway, I know.
Oh.
I know. I could probably fight Edward Cullen. He looks like a little bitch.
Yeah, but he's a vampire. They're super strong sonic men.
Yeah, as if. I'll fight him. Voldemort killed him real quick. 4 seconds flat. So,
True.
anyway.
Why would you want to be like Voldemort? Man commits genocide. I'm so sorry.
Stop!
Sorry I'm making a
So,
fun episode for you.
it is fun. But, like, we gotta get to the meat and potatoes.
I don't fucking
And then
like meat, I'm a vegetarian.
We've got to get to the tofu and potatoes.
Tell your boyfriend, if he says he's got beef, that I'm a vegetarian and I ain't fucking scared of him.
Okay, that line,
Yeah.
fire.
Fire.
Absolutely amped me up as a 12-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so other members of the heist group were John Collins, who had a long rap sheet, including about 50 years worth of robbery offenses.
Jeez.
You know, sprinkled in and about there since he was a youth. He was the lookout during the raid, and his accomplices described him as, quote, wombat thick. He also reportedly recruited his nephew, like, stupid. Yeah.
Not dummy thick.
Not dummy thick, wombat thick. Like, 14 brain cells max. Max.
If that's funny. Anyway.
It's funny, yes. So, John reportedly recruited both his nephew, who is William Lincoln, and a friend, Hugh Doyle, to join the plot.
Hugh.
So he was like the HR man of this raid. Recruiting, bringing him in. Daniel Jones also had a history of robbery and burglary offenses dating back to his teenage years. And in 1982, he was arrested for stealing nearly £100,000 worth of jewelry. So most of them, 5 of the 7, have pretty severe criminal records related to burglary.
He was arrested
And the
trying to
other few-
steal jewelry. Why would they want him to try and steal jewelry again with them? Mans
Well,
does
they've all been
not have a
arrested
very
for
good
stealing.
track record. Stealing
They've
jewels.
all been arrested for stealing. None of them were that good.
Yeah, but that's
obviously.
what's funny. Cat, innit?
Kind of funny,
It's
yeah.
jokes, isn't it? Because it's jewelry too, innit?
So this is a quote from a BBC article, and it made me chuckle, so I thought I would include it. So, quote, most of these men were on many levels your typical group of pensioners. Brian Reeder used a free bus pass. Kenny Collins who was on the lookout, frustrated others in the crew when he fell asleep during the raid. That's probably why he's wombat thick. And Terry Perkins was diabetic and took all of his medication into the vault in case he needed it. Like, on the face of hearing about these men, they have no business breaking into anything,
Right.
except for maybe the mints to give to their grandchildren, you know, like,
throw their fucking backs out.
yeah.
Break a
But
hip.
they were very nearly successful, actually, with this
Mm.
heist. There's only a few things that went wrong, and we'll, of course, get to that. So,
Yeah.
here's the
Hurry up.
timeline of the robberies. I'm getting there. Shush.
And it's funny because it's me going off on tangents.
It is.
Ev-
We would be done already by now if you would have just let me speak.
Every time you roll your
Just let me
eyes, I'm
speak the
gonna
truth.
know because you're filming yourself. Means I'm gonna know every time you make a shit face about me talking. I won't talk anymore, won't say anything else.
Good. Oh, she's sad. Anyway, let's get into the timeline of the crime, shall we? Smile. You're prettier when you smile.
Eat my entire ass.
No, thank you. So, as early as April of 2012, these thieves, the crew, began searching online about how to use different types of drills. And by May of 2014, their planning became more specific, with evidence showing that they had researched a specific kind of drill called the Hilti DD350 drill.
That's a good one.
In December, it's a good one. It is, actually. It's worth £3,500. Yeah.
Millions.
And so in December of 2014, like about 6 months after they started to research this drill, 2 of these drills were stolen, along with a further £63,000 worth of equipment from a construction site on Fetter Lane in London. Hilti only sells a few hundred units of this particular drill every year, and so it's a little bit suspicious.
A little bit sus in it.
A little bit sus. It's also believed that the group started to scout out the Hatton Garden safe deposit company around January of 2015. Around this time, in January of 2015, a neighboring shopkeeper called Lionel Whiffin spoke of feeling uneasy and felt like the place was being watched. He'll come back into the story too. We'll get
Lionel
to hear from him again.
Whiffin where?
Whiffin went to the shop.
Within? Like within? Within where?
Yeah. Within the same building that the Hatton Garden Safe Deposit Company was located.
Good for him, innit?
Yeah. So according to phone and vehicle tracking information, the group apparently began planning the heist in a pub called the Castle Pub in Islington, which is also in London, in mid-January of 2015. They usually met there on busy Friday nights, and then Jones would call Wood the next day just to keep him updated on what they had heisted out, what they'd planned out.
Why couldn't Wood just go?
Don't know. Didn't want to. Probably
Fair.
had like Aquasize or something.
Bridge club.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
So on April 1st of 2015, so this is the Wednesday of the Easter, run up to Easter week, an underground fire broke out in a nearby neighborhood, the Holborn neighborhood, and it burned for several days. The fire was fueled by a gas leak, and it essentially shut down central London for a few days and tied up emergency services pretty well. It was quite dangerous. John O'Connor, who is the former head of Scotland Yard's flying squad, which is like this elite division that looks into robberies and thievery and such, he was later quoted saying that he believed that it was too much of a coincidence that this fire broke out like 24 hours before the heist began. I believe they eventually found that the fire was not intentionally set, but I don't know. It is a very wild coincidence
Yeah, for
because
sure.
police, fire, ambulances were all busy with the fire.
Yeah.
So now we shall cut to the night of April 2nd,
Dun dun.
which is the Thursday before Good Friday. So the crew arrived at the Hatton Garden Safe Deposit Company around 8 p.m., just shortly afterwards, which was a few hours after the security guards had left for the evening. As I mentioned, in the UK, the Easter weekend is 4 days long, meaning that from this point on April the 2nd, the businesses would not reopen until Tuesday morning, and there wouldn't be, too many people around because it's not like got everyday shops there. They only sell jewels largely in the area. Most of the crew arrived in a white panel van driven by John Collins, but Brian Reeder actually arrived by taking 2 buses. And he used someone else's bus pass just to, kind of negate suspicion. But he used the free senior citizens bus pass to do so. Our previously mentioned friend Lionel Whiffin, who his jewelry shop was immediately next door to the safe deposit company, left his shop around 9:20. So now the plan could take action. A lot of the things that happened were caught on CCTV. The crew had attempted to steal most of the CCTV footage in the area, or cameras in the area. But they actually missed one key one, which was above a fire exit, which caught a lot of what was going on, unfortunately for them.
Probably couldn't see it.
So
didn't have the glasses on.
Maybe not. Maybe not. So first of all, Basil, our friend Baz, who was an alarm/electronics specialist, walked from Greville Street and gained entrance to the main doors of the building, which was 88 to 90 Hatton Garden. He likely had a set of keys. So the main wooden door was secured with a mortise latch, which locked automatically when the doors were closed. And then immediately behind that was like a glass door panel that was magneted shut with like a pin code. So similar to like the inside apartment doors, I would say. When this case went to court, they said that the main door lock with the key could very easily have been copied by a locksmith. All tenants of the building had a key for those main doors and knew the PIN code. Everyone used the same 4-digit PIN. It wasn't like terribly secure when you think about what's stored there. So it probably wouldn't have been that difficult to get a copy of the key and to, peek over someone's shoulder and see what the PIN was. There was also some maybe thought that they had opened the doors, like, kind of slammed against the magnet thing holding the glass doors, causing it to sort of override and open. So a couple of different options that they could have got in there. And then Wood and Jones were then caught on the fire escape CCTV. They appeared to be speaking into a walkie-talkie. There was no mobile phone activity from any of the crew during the raid, so they had planned that piece out to not be caught.
Well, it's because they don't know how to use them, because they're senior citizens.
So they go to the fire escape door, they're talking on the walkie-talkie, and then they walk back to the van, which is on the street. And then because the rest of the heist mostly takes place inside the building, the timelines get a little bit fuzzier from here, but once the crew were inside the building, the elevator or lift car for the building was moved to the second floor, and then it was disabled. They pulled the door sensor out so that the doors would remain open. This opened a short drop down from the shaft from the ground floor to the basement. This is where the sort of like think the vault would be, and they pulled open some shutters to get through into the basement from that elevator shaft. On the ground floor, a handwritten out of order note was stuck next to the lift, which had not been there before the heist began. So they made sure to cover their tracks a little bit in case someone came by. Weirdly, after this all happened, it came out that a visitor to the vaults a few days previously, on March 31st, had noticed that the lift had taken a little bit longer to arrive than they were anticipating. And when the lift did finally arrive, there was a man who matched Perkins's description inside the elevator, wearing blue overalls and standing inside. He was sort of like surrounded by tools, and just smiled at the lady, being like, "Sorry, can't come in. Lift's broken," type of thing. So, obviously, we're casing the joint for a bit.
Yeah.
And so the other members of the crew were let into the building by Basil through that fire escape door. Most of the other crew members were dressed kind of up like a work crew. One man, I believe Rita, was wearing a high-vis vest that said gas on the back. So to people looking, maybe onlookers on the street or people walking by, would have probably just assumed that they were just like the unlucky people who drew the short straw and had to work over the holiday weekend. So when they were inside, they cut the telephone line cable that was coming out of the alarm, and then cut some wires to disable an electrical box which powered the iron gate to the vault. So that allowed for it to be pulled open. It also allowed for them to bring their larger machinery and to get in and out more easily to the vault. They also hauled in some metal joists, that we will come back to later. Collins can then be seen moving the white van and walking along Hatton Garden to the crossroads with Greville Street. He's wearing a green quilted jacket, a flat cap, and is carrying a briefcase. And then he goes up to the office building that's immediately across the street at 25 Hatton Garden. It's not quite clear how he got into the building, but again, kind of when this came to court, there was apparently an abundance of keys to this building in circulation, and so pretty likely they also acquired a key to that building somehow. And so he went upstairs, had a really good clear view of the front door of the building where the security deposit boxes were, and so he could watch from there as the lookout, being that he's a wombat. So the crew managed to open the outer iron gate into the vault shortly after midnight. At 18 minutes past midnight, the security alarm was able to send a text message to the monitoring company. Opening the outer door likely improved the signal to the panel, so it was able to get that message out. The monitoring company called Alok Bavishi, and he was told that the police were also on their way. Bavishi then rang a security guard called Kelvin Stockwell, who agreed to go and check out the building and see what was going on. Bavishi himself was not originally intending to accompany him, but he decided he would, as Stockwell would be on his own, and that he believed that the police was called, so maybe there would be some reports to make or paperwork or whatever to do. Kelvin Stockwell arrived at Hatton Garden at around 1:15 a.m. At this point, Collins had actually fallen asleep, as we mentioned earlier, and he failed to alert the rest of the crew what was going on. Stockwell, though, also didn't really do his job very well. He looked through the main doors, didn't see anything amiss, and as a result, he called Bavishi, who was, a few minutes away, just to say that the main door was locked and the fire exit seemed secure. And so Stockwell informed Bavishi that it was probably a false alarm, and they both agreed to go home, which they did.
Nice.
Yeah, nothing like peering through the window just to make sure nothing's amiss. But I suppose in those cases you probably would be anticipating, like a brick through the window type of theft, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't be anticipating this like well planned out wildness.
Yeah.
So because the crew had literally no idea that they were there, they had just kept on working because Mr. Wombat had fallen asleep at the wheel. Actually, when I listened to the British Scandal one, they also, because they do like more dramatizations, they had kind of like dramatized that he had gone to get a fish and chips, and that was his like attempt to stay awake was by eating fish and chips. So
Nice.
may or may not be true. So the crew then spent the rest of the evening and night cutting through the second sliding iron gate. They were then left with just one more obstacle, small. Rather than attempt to crack open the door of the vault, like, traditional robbers would, the crew had an alternative plan, and why they had been planning for so long. It was a two-stage operation. First, they would drill through the 2-meter thick concrete wall of the vault, and then they would use a hydraulic ram powered by a pump and hose to push over the metal cabinet containing the safety deposit boxes. The crew would then climb through this big hole into the vault, raid whatever they needed, and get out of there. And so that's why they had acquired themselves these Hilti DD350 drills. These particular drills are designed to bore through concrete, so essentially they cut like this big circular hole in super thick materials like concrete. So what they did was they used this drill to cut 3 kind of interlocking circular holes through the concrete. And I'm going to include a picture of this for sure in the case file. Go and check it out. It's crazy. Like, it's this massive big hole that they drilled in the night with nobody hearing. It looks fake, to be honest with you, but it's real. That piece of the plan, the drilling, went off without much hitch. They got through, whatever. And then when they tried to use the hydraulic ram to knock over the cabinet, it actually didn't fall over. It was bolted to both the ceiling and the floor.
Rip.
Yeah. And so the hydraulic ram should have knocked it over, but investigators believed that the crew didn't use the equipment properly, and it broke the base, and so they weren't able to knock it over. So at 7:50 a.m. on the Friday morning, Good Friday, Wood, Jones, Reeder, and Perkins left Hatton Garden empty-handed. Reeder then decided that he would not return, and he believed that the raid could not be completed anymore, that it was over, they did their best, it was done. But the rest of the crew had a little bit more determination. They were more like ready to do this a second night, so they did. Again, our friend Mr. Whiffin returned to his office on Friday evening to make some arrangements for an electrician that would be visiting the next day. And when he got to the building, the fire exit door was ajar. This worried him. He checked everything out, made sure things looked normal, and made sure that the fire escape door was closed on his way out. But he couldn't see anything amiss.
Okay.
And then he left again around 9 p.m., locked the fire escape door, thought all was well. Someone must have just forgotten to close it behind them, kind of thing. And then later on that evening, about 10 p.m., the crew arrive again for their second go at the vault. Basil again entered through that main front door, let the other guys in through the fire escape door. So this was Jones, Wood, and Collins that were waiting at the fire escape door.
Mm-hmm.
While they were waiting for Basil to come and unlock the door for them, they appeared to be in kind of a bit of a discussion, and Wood decided then that he didn't want to go through with it and is shown on CCTV footage leaving the area and not returning. So he bounced like his pal Reeder.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, bitch.
Didn't need you anyway. More money for me.
Hell yeah. Anyway, so the gang go back into through the fire escape door. They bring in a new hose and pump to use with the hydraulic ram. This time, though, the burglars were able to use the previously mentioned metal joists to give the hydraulic ram more purchase, and they were able to pretty easily push the cabinet over and into the vault.
Nice.
Once they were inside, they were able to open 73 of the 999 safe deposit boxes, mostly of which contained jewelry, stones, gems, gold, things like that. Because a lot of these items actually belong to businesses in the area rather than like private people, a lot of the jewelry and more specifically like the stones, the kind of like raw diamonds, raw stones, were uninsured and also uncounted. They're just kind of in there because they hadn't been made into anything
It's kind of
yet,
dumb.
right? It's a little dumb, but hey, it is what it is. There's some really crazy pictures of what the police were able to, whatchamacallit, the evidence photos anyway, of the jewels that they were able to find, and it's like piles. It's like a pile of emeralds.
You can get
Like,
lots of
okay,
bread with that.
all right, you can. Also, a diamond pickaxe if you've got the right villagers.
A mending book.
The best. Anyway, on task. As dawn broke, the crew emerged from the fire escape exit. Jones was first, and he brought out the new pump and hose that they had brought with them earlier the night before. Perkins joined him, and together they brought 2 wheelie bins and several bags out, all of which were filled with jewels and other, valuable items. Collins, meanwhile, left his lookout post. I don't think he fell asleep on the Saturday night, so that's good.
Good for him.
He walked along Gravel Street before driving the van around through the alley to the fire escape. And then at 6:44 a.m., all 4 men left the scene in the white van, and they drove east. Inside the van was their wheelie bins and black garbage bags with around 14 million pounds worth of diamonds, gold, and precious gems. And then the burglary wasn't discovered until April 7th, when people returned back to work from the weekend on the Tuesday. So, firstly, audacious to punch a giant hole in a big, thick concrete.
Yeah.
Also audacious to just put giant piles of diamonds in a literal wheelie garbage can.
Yeah. Also wild to go back the next day.
Yeah.
It's fine,
that's
guys.
why,
Let's just take a break. Come back tomorrow.
whatever. That's, I think, why Rita didn't want to go back again. That's why he kind of like quit after the first night, because he was like, this is just a recipe for getting caught. Which unfortunately they did. So police were obviously alerted to the robbery when people got back to work on the 7th, and they launched a massive investigation. This was the largest robbery in British history, so like they got right to it,
We only
When
care
the
when rich
detectives
people's things go missing.
well, it's just a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was like garbage, a giant pile of garbage is still worth money when there's a lot of it. It's just compounding. Anyway, whatever. Stop being a communist, shrimp. Stop being a communist, shrimp. When detectives first arrived on the scene, it looked like the robbers had pulled off the perfect crime. So there were no fingerprints. They had stolen the CCTV hard drives, so there was no CCTV, like I said, from inside the building or from much of the surrounding buildings pointing outside. While the thieves were careful, they were, unfortunately for them, not careful enough. They underestimated how CCTV and surveillance would ultimately help the police in catching them. London is an incredibly well surveilled city. There are around 627,000 CCTV cameras in the city of London. Essentially, the city is covered. By comparison, New York City, which is approximately the same population-wise, has only 37,000 cameras, and that is the most surveilled city in the United States.
Oh, wow.
In the world, globally, there are only 2 other cities who have more CCTV coverage than London, and those are Beijing and Shanghai,
Makes sense.
which makes sense. And we sort of know that there's a lot going on over there with watching the people. So the fact that London has just almost just as many is pretty wild. I actually looked. I think Toronto has like 17,000 or something like that, but I'll link it in the links for this week. But there is a really cool like comparison thing that shows you little dots on a map of where each of the cameras are. And so if you look at London, it's like basically all dots. Right? It's very, very well covered. And then if you look at other cities, like any other city, basically, it's much more sparse. And so you can kind of compare it to whatever your local city is and kind of see the difference. And I know surveillance has come up more recently with other cases with that police officer who murdered that lady in London. And it was like all caught basically on CCTV.
Yeah.
So anyway, these thieves underestimated how much they would be captured on CCTV just by being out and about, basically. And the CCTV footage ended up being pretty key to catching the thieves. Police also had another lucky break in the fact that the men, while being experienced thieves, were not experienced secret keepers. And so they were overheard bragging about the heist that they'd pulled off in Cockney rhyming slang. Officers also eavesdropped the kind of like ringleaders as they discussed over pints at the Castle pub how they would split up the riches and where they would go to do that. And the police said after a few pints of beer, they became more boastful and they were absolutely unaware that they were being listened to.
Oh my goodness.
Which, like, same. I get that. I also spill my guts if I have a drink or two. But, like, maybe keep some things you have to keep to yourself.
Yeah.
Like that time that you robbed a bunch of jewelry and you haven't split it up or hidden it yet, you know?
Yeah. And it's the biggest robbery in British history.
Yeah.
If you stole something from like the corner shop, it's a bit different, but
Yeah. 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 So, anyway, Collins was overheard suggesting that they use the car park outside of Hugh Doyle's workshop to exchange their stolen goods so that they would not be seen by the police. Jones and Perkins were then recorded moving the wheelie bins into Jones's driveway. And on May 19th, a taxi driver named John Harbinson picked up the stolen goods and also Jones and Perkins and delivered them to Doyle's workshop. William Lincoln, Jones, and Collins were then seen to be transferring the stolen items from the taxi into Collins's Mercedes. And then Jones and Perkins joined Collins at Stirling Road, which was then raided by the police, who seized the loot and arrested the men because they couldn't keep their mouths shut.
That's so funny. That's
Isn't
like the
it?
funniest way that crimes are solved is by people just literally not knowing when to shut up. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Like, boast about it to your other criminal enterprise friends, but maybe like don't boast about it in a crowded pub in London on a Friday night. So.
Pretty dumb.
Pretty dumb. And then in September of 2015, so shortly afterwards, Rita, Perkins, Jones, and Collins all pled guilty to conspiracy to commit burglary. Jones later promised to lead the police to his hidden stash because they weren't able to raid his share.
Yeah.
In October of 2015, the police searched a cemetery in Edmonton, not Alberta, elsewhere,
Scotland,
where they discovered 2 bags stuffed with jewels under memorial stones connected to Jones's partner's family.
Oh, that's gross.
Yeah. Jones was then later escorted by police to where he had hidden his share of the gems, not knowing that the police had already recovered like the majority of them.
Ah,
And then he also led police to a second plot in the same cemetery where he had buried a smaller stash of gems under another memorial stone of another relative.
oh my
So
goodness.
I guess check the memorial stones in your local cemetery, friends. In November of 2015, Carl Wood, John Hobson, the taxi driver, William Lincoln, and Doyle all went on trial, accused of being involved with the raid.
Mm,
The taxi driver was cleared of his 2 offenses, claiming that he didn't know what was in the bags. I think that's fair. He didn't
that
have
is
any
fair,
other
yeah.
connections, as far as I'm aware. Taxi drivers just pick people up with their things, and that doesn't
Yeah.
make you a criminal.
He
Just
was
doing your job.
just driving, man. Just driving.
Exactly. On March the 9th of 2016, John Collins, Daniel Jones, and Terry Perkins were all given 7-year prison terms. Carl Wood and William Lincoln were found guilty of conspiracy to commit burglary and also 1 count each of conspiracy to conceal, convert, or transfer criminal property. Lincoln was also given a 7-year sentence, and Wood was sentenced to 6 years.
Oh, why did he get less?
Hugh Doyle, I don't know. It didn't actually say. I'm thinking he had probably less involvement because he did leave
True.
the scene. He didn't actually steal anything. He
Mm,
just was involved in the plot and also concealed said jewels. So,
yes.
anyway, Hugh Doyle was found guilty of concealing, converting, or transferring criminal property, and he was jailed for 21 months. The alleged ringleader, the governor, Brian Reeder, was sentenced to 6 years and 3 months in prison in March of 2016. And then in January of 2018, a confiscation ruling was held, and it was ruled that John Collins, Daniel Jones, Terry Perkins, and Brian Reeder must pay a total of £27.5 million, or they would face an additional 7 years on their prison sentences. Perkins unfortunately died in prison in February of 2018, so was never able to pay back his, share of that 27 million.
Hmm.
In August of 2018, Daniel Jones had his sentence extended by 6 years and 287 days for failing to return 6.6 almost million pounds. In August of 2019, Collins was also sentenced to some additional time of just over 6 years for failing to comply with that same confiscation order. It was revealed during the hearing that Collins had repaid £732,000 of the £7.6 million order, but didn't repay the rest, and so he had that time tacked onto his sentence. Enforcement action was also taking place to seize Collins's remaining assets to try to recover some of that money.
Wild.
And so up until this point, sort of like late 2018, our friend Basil, had not been caught.
Ah,
The
Basil.
other men did not implicate him,
Hmm.
and he was just living his best life. But he was eventually caught, and in March of 2019, Basil, or Michael Seed, was found guilty of burglary and conspiracy to burgle and was sentenced to a total of 18 years, 10 for one charge, 8 for the other, but he's serving those sentences concurrently.
Ah, Basil.
In 2020, Basil, Michael Seed, was also ordered to repay £6 million in damages or face an additional 7 years. So essentially the same situation that the other dudes acquired.
Yes.
Is that the right word? Don't know.
No.
But you know what I mean. So,
Yes.
why is this heist so fascinating? Well, I think for me, it's the fact that it was carried out almost successfully, very almost successfully by this group of like grandfathers. The combined age of the kind of four main players, so Rita, Perkins, Collins, and Jones, was 278.
That's old
It
as
was also
fuck.
like purely the most audacious task to try to complete, to accomplish,
Yeah.
because it took place in the heart of London, in this jewelry district, and in this well surveilled, well secured business that its whole job basically was to protect what was inside.
Yep.
It also, for those reasons, captured the public's imagination because even though there were a lot of high tech things in place, the heist was still able to be accomplished. And then, you know, sort of, I think, on a more human note, the little old men, you almost feel a little bit like of softness for them. And a criminology professor at Birmingham City University called David Wilson said of the crew, quote, "You can almost picture the joy and excitement that planning would bring. I imagine the more they spoke of it, the more excited they became. This was the one last dream job. It's a kind of deal that brings a lot of excitement. There is a great deal of status attached to it," which
Oh.
I can totally imagine. Like, I know a lot of elderly people struggle kind of being isolated and not getting to do the things that they used to in their youth, so I can totally imagine this like group of elderly criminals being like, one last heist for the good
Oh.
times. Let's go out with a bang,
That makes
you
me feel
know?
kind of
Like, can't you
sad.
just? Yeah, yeah. Like,
Let them
don't
out. They
steal
didn't
from
do anything
people.
wrong.
They just wanted to relive their youths, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, they're all still in prison, with the exception of Perkins, of course, who passed on to the other side
Mm.
with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But yeah, the rest of them are still in prison and probably won't get out unless they live to be like quite elderly. So
Yes.
yeah, so
Cool
that's
beans.
the Easter heist, the Hatton Garden jewelry district heist.
Nice.
Pretty cool, pretty crazy. I would definitely recommend, if this sort of like brief blip of the story intrigued you, to go and listen to the British Scandal like series. They do a really good job of narrating and sort of like storyizing these true stories. So there's also a few films as well about this case. So I didn't watch those. Can't say if they're good or not, but they're there if you're looking for some cool, fun, chill Easter Sunday watching. So
Hell yeah.
hell yeah! Thank you so much, friends, for coming on this tangent-filled adventure with us.
Yeah.
We hope you had a good time. Let us know if you liked it. Give us a like, give us a comment, share us with your friends,
Follow us on Instagram.
plug us, follow us on Instagram, send us an email, all that info down below, or in the case notes, which I don't actually know where those reside on Spotify, but somewhere. The links are there. And thank you so, so much for listening, for watching. We appreciate you. We'll see you next Sunday for
Bye.
something else.
Something else.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.